In this lesson, we're going to consider lofts and the use of splines to create complicated guide curves for driving lofts. So we're going to start with a new part, so new part, okay? And let's go ahead and make a sketch on our front plane. So the first thing I'm going to do is use the polygon. The polygon makes a regular polygon of a certain size. So let's start with a 6 polygon that has 6 sides. And choosing the origin here, I'm going to draw our polygon out to some distance. And let's go ahead and do some dimensions here. We'll let the diameter of the circle be 6. And then to fully constrain this curve, I'm going to click the top line and make sure that it's set as horizontal. Okay, so that finishes the first sketch. And if I look at it in 3D, I can see what it looks like. The next thing is where I want to loft to. And in order to create that this time, I'm going to create a reference plane. So on the Features tab, there's a drop down next to the reference, and we'll do plane. It needs some references, so let's do a drop down here, and I want to reference off of that front plane. And the default is, if you just have one plane, it's assuming that what you want to do is some sort of offset. That is indeed what we want to do. Let's let this be maybe 20 inches. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, 20 inches, but I want to go in the other direction. Positive Z. So we'll put another sketch up here on this top plane. So I'll check. And now we've got this plane one that is now defined at 20 inches above the front plane. Okay. Right-clicking on the plane. Let's create a new sketch. And now I'm going to make another polygon. And instead of 6 sides, let's let this one be 12 sides. So again, I'm going to start at the origin. And I think I want it to be bigger, so zooming out a little bit. There we go. And again, we need to dimension a couple places to make it fully defined. Let's let it be twice as big. And why don't we let this top edge here, so I escape to get out of the dimension command, and then I'm going to make this be horizontal up here at the top. So let's exit the sketch. And the first thing we can do is just a simple loft and see what happens. So I'm going to take sketch 1 and holding down control, sketch 2, do a lofted base. And you can see that basically it's going to draw a straight line as best as it can. And if I look at the profile from the side, the two curves on the side are going to be roughly as straight as they can be. In other words, there's no bend in the loft function. That's what we want to change. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this loft we just created. So delete. I don't want to delete the absorbed features, so I'll click yes, and we're back to this original view. Okay, I want to hide this plane, so I'll right-click on the plane and click the Hide button. That hides the plane from view. And now I need a plane that's going to cross both of the curves. And let's see, let's rest on this top plane here and zoom around here. The top plane has the advantage of starting at it's crossing through a vertex of the hexagon, and it's hitting the middle of a straight line of the 12-sided polygon. The right plane does the opposite. So the right plane goes right through both lines. So I think I'm going to use my right plane as a guide curve, and the reason I am is because this line and this line reside in the same plane. They reside in a plane that is that passes through these two lines, and the other points, the right plane doesn't have that feature. So the right plane is the one we're going to use. We'll edit that sketch. Now the typical loft command, what it would have done is basically a straight line from this point to this point, just a straight line like this. Okay, that's what the standard loft without using guide curves would have done. So let's delete that line. And what I'm going to do is first I'm going to convert entities. I'm going to convert this edge right here onto my current plane. You can see it makes a line. Take this plane right here, I'm going to convert it. So let's again look at it. Alright. So let's start the spline tool. Well, what I want to do is I want to make some sort of curvy shape here that describes how the feature ought to work. So I'm going to start here, and rather than trying to control the curve directly, what I'm going to do is just click different places along the line and recognize that eventually my shape would get to where I want it to be. And that's finished, so I'll hit escape, and there's my curve. So after I've finished drawing my spline, this is going to be one of my guide curves. So I'm going to exit the sketch, and what we're going to do now is the right plane is the sketch on which sketch 3 was sketched. So I'm going to create a new sketch on the right plane. I am going to create a line that's for construction and infinite length, starting at the origin and horizontal, so it snaps horizontal. And then I'm going to mirror then I'm going to convert the spline that we just created a minute ago. So having converted the spline, I'm going to click on it again. This time I'm going to let this one be for construction, but then I can use the mirror entities and the spline that I just created and mirrored it about the middle axis we just created. And for this spline, I'm going to change it to not be for construction. Exit sketch. What that gives us now is two curves. One of them is the one that we drew with the spline, the other one is mirrored about. This is sketch 3 and sketch 4. And we're ready to make our loft. So let's go into the loft command. And sketch 4 was already highlighted, so it guessed that I wanted that to be a guide curve. I also am going to put sketch 3 as a guide curve. And now for my profiles, we'll grab the bottom sketch, that was sketch 1, and the top sketch, that's sketch 2. This is going to allow us to make something kind of vase-like as we move along. It's a solid feature with very complicated curves as it guides along the way. A couple things to note. One of the most important things is that sketch 3 never was fully defined. If I go back to edit the sketch, the reason it's not fully defined is because I never really defined the spline, and this is typical design standards for splines. So if you have to draw these strange curved shapes, most of the time you're not drawing them by parameters, but you're more drawing them by shape. And so convention is not to fully dimension them. Notice I've got a lot of control. There's 4 degrees of freedom per point, so this could become very complicated very quickly. And there's a quick introduction to the spline tool and to lofts using guide curves.